After I divorced Jean, I was alone, truly alone for the first time. The silence hurt more than any scream ever could. I had a mattress on the floor and a dream to be someone, nothing more. At that time, I had no idea what lay ahead. I only knew I no longer wished to be invisible. Work in the factory gave me courage. The photographs gave me hope. Each click was an attempt to be born anew. And for the first time, someone looked at me and saw more than a lost girl. It was Miss Emmeline Snively from the modeling agency I worked for who opened the door for me. She would say, "The camera likes you, darling." And I began to like it too. I wasn't taken to Fox Century by some millionaire I met at Paris. I was introduced by a woman, Miss Snively, who introduced me to Mr. Ben Lyon at 20th Century Fox office. Ben Lyon, kind and curious, said to me, "You have a face that movies will love. Have you ever thought about changing your name?" I smiled shyly. "Maybe. Norma Jean sounds like someone the world has forgotten." And Ben said, "And Marilyn Monroe sounds like someone the world is yet to meet." I don't precisely remember when the sharp pains began to haunt me. Perhaps around the age of 10. I remember the panic, the fear of telling anyone, of then realizing I was ill, the fear that no family would accept me, or worse, that these acute pains were a sign I would fall ill like my mother. There was no information, only analgesics that were never enough. It was only years later that I discovered it was endometriosis, a chronic and painful condition affecting the uterus. But unfortunately, I had only one option: trust what the doctors prescribed and take the medications they provided. The world I entered was one of powerful men. They laughed loudly, spoke excessively, looked as if the body itself was an invitation. But I learned early, not every gaze is affection. Sometimes it is simply another trap. So I became an actress even before stepping into a cinema. In my innermost memories, in my visions, I do not see Marilyn Monroe as the naive image the world tried to immortalize. I see her as a silent strategist and extraordinarily intelligent. I learned to survive by studying people. While the world objectified me, I observed, I learned. I understood at that time that holding a cigarette was not merely smoking. It was a symbol, an act that conveyed independence, power, and maturity in male-dominated environments. It was also a gesture that silently said, "Give me a moment to think." And I used this throughout my life. I didn't hold the cigarette out of habit, but because I understood that gesture spoke louder than any word I was permitted to utter. When I entered the circle of the powerful, men who made laws, decisions, and destinies, I realized that alcohol was a ritual of belonging. So I used it. Pretending to drink gave me a mask. Pretend inebriation gave me an excuse to refuse indecent invitations, to escape judgment, and to avoid dangerous situations. No one wanted a scandal involving a drinking girl. I could never truly get drunk. Being genuinely inebriated would put me at risk and strip away control from my strategy. Pretend to be drunk was a tool of self-protection, never a real surrender to alcohol. And when necessary, I went further. I pretended I was about to vomit on a persistent man's designer outfit. The disgust and fear of being exposed would immediately drive them away. So I gained time. Party after party, room after room, I moved like a chess player, placing each piece deliberately. I gave people exactly the character they wished to see, long before I became an actor in cinema. This became my defense mechanism, my weapon. For this reason, every person who met me as Marilyn Monroe insists they met a different version of me. But within that intimate stage, there was Norma Jean, conscious, steadfast, knowing precisely what she wanted and who she needed to be to reach it. There existed a traumatized Norma Jean scarred by abuse. All psychiatrists, psychologists, and survivors of abuse may understand what I am recounting and the contradiction and how Marilyn Monroe's personality has been read. It is crucial to understand and never forget how women were treated in 30s, 40s, 50s. I felt intense physical pain from the beginning of my career. Abdominal pains, acute cramps. Over time, the analgesics became stronger. I began to take barbiturates, sedative drugs that depressed the central nervous system via GABA, producing a general sedative effect. Analgesics work by blocking pain's sinus or reducing perception, while barbiturates act by depressing the central nervous system. So, how could a woman already dependent on such potent medications prescribed by doctors also be an alcoholic? How could heavy doses of sleeping medication taken the night before be mixed with morning glasses of champagne, as many journalists describe? The truth is that glass was not addiction, it was performance, it was character, it was strategy. I presented myself dazzlingly, holding the champagne, not because my body craved alcohol, but because I knew what the world expected to see. I delivered the perfect character. I was a simple woman. When I woke up, all I needed was a bath and a cup of coffee. If I was truly an alcoholic, why was not a drop of alcohol found in my body on the day I died? Because I was not about losing control, I was calculation. I gave people the reflection of their fantasies, and thus each person believed they had known a different Marilyn Monroe. I moved with mastery between character and real life. I lost count of how many times I repeated lines from characters I read in books. I know this caused confusion about my personality. I offer sincere apologies, but believe me, it was a matter of survival. It saved me from dark and inhumane situations such as being forcibly committed to the Pain Whitney Psychiatric Clinic in New York under an alias Faye Miller. People think I was born in a studio, but no, I was born alone in a small room trying to believe that life was worth living. Marilyn Monroe was the name the world gave me, but inside, I was still that girl, trying to be loved, trying to be free.